So today I had a bunch of clips where I wanted to break down some notching scenarios, mainly in the J10. I think there's one in the F-15C from a few weeks ago when I was playing. And I just wanted to look at some of those more trickier scenarios again, because notching is one of the most common questions people ask about. And on top of that, I've also got a few more of the Datalink examples that I've been talking about a lot recently. So straight into it, I was messing about with TWS here trying to get a lock when I should have used a HMD lock, and just here I'm going to pause it. Now, this is one of those scenarios where I think a lot of people start to get confused in visualizing the scenario, because most of your notches will be sort of side on as you'd expect, but when you get one from below you like this, and this is almost directly below me, it can be a little bit harder to visualize. The general rule of thumb you can follow, which will serve you well most of the time, is if a missile is coming towards you, i.e. it's coming in sort of the front hemisphere of your view, you want to pull away from it. If a missile is coming behind you, your rear hemisphere chasing you, for example, you want to pull into it. So if we see this missile here now below me, you can see that it's slightly in front of me and below me, so to pull away from it, I'm going to be going straight up. So I'll just play it now just so you can see that, and then we'll look at it in sensor view. So here in sensor view, I've frozen it at the start where I've given you the side-on view of that missile coming at me from below. Now, this is what I mean when I mentioned in my notching tutorial a while back to think about notching in 2 dimensions. I've given you a red line which represents the missile's radar pointing at me. The blue arrow just over my plane is my current velocity vector, and then the big blue line I've just drawn through the middle of my plane, and that is the line perpendicular to my velocity vector, i.e. the notch angle that I want to find. Now, when you're notching a missile, try to imagine the 2-dimensional plane you and the missile can sit on. So in this case, this side-on view is that 2-dimensional plane. So from here, it's clear to see that I simply need to turn upwards, drop my chaff, and the missile will get notched. So I'm just going to let this play through now. I'm just going to pause it again now. Now you should be able to see from the annotations that now my velocity vector is pointing upwards slightly, that the line perpendicular to that, the notch angle, is in line with the missile's radar, and this is roughly the point in the clip at which the missile gets notched and switches off its Doppler filter and goes for my chaff. Right, so before I lose your attention with all the geometry, let's look at a merge now instead. And this is going to be a merge when you start on the defense, kind of like the gripping video I did last. So I'm looking for this F-16 in my RWR, and I'm just going to pause it here. So there's a lot of decision making that goes on when I get caught out in a situation like this, and your course of action is going to depend on how comfortable you are in the airframe you're using and the capabilities of that airframe. Now, if I was already in HMD and my reactions were a bit better, I probably could have got a counterfire off before I went into the notch, but it's important to remember that you should always prioritize surviving. In this situation, I wasn't completely confident I was going to get the launch off without trading or just dying myself. The missile's pretty much head on, so it's up to you if you go left or right. I'm going to go left in this clip. I'm going to use a bit of air brakes. I'm going Mach 1. And it's sort of a feeling thing as to whether you feel like you need to use your air brake. I felt like I wasn't going to have a lot of time here. And when I play it, you'll see that I notch it just about in time. So the air brake did feel like it was necessary. So as I turn through the notch, I've established quite quickly that I'm not going to have time to line my wingtip up and get the RWR reading. So just pull through the notch angle all the way, pop the chaff, and you will notch it. Just sort of trust the process. And I'm accepted him on the defense here. I'm just making sure I notch his missiles, and I'm going to let him merge side on. Put my nose down here just to build up a bit more energy and dodge the gun. And you see there, like I said in the gripping video, people don't manage their speed coming into merges like that. And again, if it was guns only, I might be struggling, but it's not. I've got PL5s, I've got PL12s. If you overshoot, you're dead. Little clip in the F-15C now, which I couldn't find a home for. I don't have many clips in the F-15C, so I couldn't make a full video yet, but I thought it was quite a good clip to use. So first up, I'm just looking at this F-16. Now in the F-15E, I do take 8 AMRAAMs. In the C, I do like to take the 19M for scenarios like this. This is a fantastic sort of side-on, top-down aspect for a 9M. I find them more reliable in a situation like that, and I like having the one handy. So as I turn around here, a J10 is going to pop up down on my left, and he's going to be my next target. He's closest, he's flying this way, so he takes priority. And as I'm locking him up, prepare to fire, notice I've got a track warning on my left. Now, I can notch and pressure this other J10 whilst this is going on, so that's fine. So I'm going to get the lock. It's rear aspect. He might multipath, but I'm going to take the shot here because I need to keep the pressure up so I don't get sandwiched in this situation. This missile's only going to collect a crit, so it does provide a bit of an awkward scenario where I'm going to end up sort of between two J10s. After I see the crit, I can see that other J10's killed my teammate, so I need to get a launch off to put the pressure on him. And then in pulling away, preparing to notch, I'm trying to finish off the J10 I've already crit. And I'm just going to pause it in a second here. So you remember what I said at the start of the video in that first notching scenario, if a missile's in your front hemisphere of view coming towards you, you need to turn away from it. If a missile's chasing you, it's in your rear hemisphere of view like here, you need to turn into it. You can also see that on the RWR, it's on my back left, so I need to turn into the left, and that's going to be the fastest route for me to get to the notch in time. So as I'm recommitting now, notching this missile, I'm looking down at the J10 below me. It looks like he's falling out the sky, so I'm not too worried. So I'm going to get the launch off on the other J10, and as he fires, I'm just going to pause it again. It should seem intuitive, but I will cover it just quickly here. Make sure you pick the right direction in these close range scenarios. He's on my front left, so the most efficient route for me to notch is to the right. It's also going to increase the distance the missile needs to travel and the more turning it needs to do to reach me. If I were to turn left, I can get round to a notch, but I've got more angle to cover, and I'm going to cross the head on with the missile, so that's going to have maximum closure rate. So I'm probably not going to get there in time, especially in an F-15. So just make sure you pick the right direction. Generally speaking, again, it's coming from my front left, so to turn away from the missile, I'm going to my front right. So let's do some Datalink now. So a couple of common questions. One was, does the Datalink trick work with single target track? And can you get hits even if it sticks to Datalink the whole way in? And the answer to both of these is yes. So I'm going to take a PL-12 shot and single target track on this F-16. And you see, because he's in the notch, my missile's immediately going to switch to my Datalink because the missile's been notched, my radar hasn't, and the missile's looking down, so it's asking for the Datalink updates. Holds it the full way in and actually collects a crit for me. Here's sensor view from my perspective. Just watch the seeker on the missile. It's sticking to inertial guidance and Datalink the whole way in. It's not switching to track. It's using my guidance updates the whole way in. And here it is from my target's perspective. Again, you see the seeker state. It's inertial guidance and Datalink. The missile can't see him, so it's asking for guidance updates. He pops some chaff, but the missile isn't seeing it because, well, it's not switched off the Doppler filter. So now I did also want to take a look at the end of that game with the Datalink clip that you just saw. So here I'm pushing in towards the enemy runway, and there's a couple of F-15s taking off. I've got some PL-12s. I fired one at that guy who shot at me, and I went into the notch, and I'm pre-tracking one of the guys that's just taken off. When I see he fires, I fire at him. Now you see how I'm notching the missiles in turn, you know, deal with the threat that's closest. And I'm trying to keep them all in a group on my left wingtip. I don't want to push into the middle of them. Friendly takes out the F-15 below me, and I'm hoping that the guy taking off isn't paying too much attention, so I go for the top-down PL-5, which is going to get the severe and shortly the kill. And now I'm down to one F-15, and I'm just looking around trying to find him. So I've got no PL-12s left, so I know I'm going to have to try and force a close range fight. And there we go, he pops up, he catches me out, but I'm in a low fuel J10, so it's easy to get around into the notch. Remember, the missiles are in front of me, I'm turning away from them, turning through the notch, popping my chaff. And now I'm looking for the merge, but I'm not being too, you know, I didn't commit too hard there, because I know he's probably still got more AMRAAMs. So I made sure I had the space to get into the notch if I need to. I'm just sort of circling around him, trying to find the spot, and here we go now, and AMRAAM's not going to pull anymore, so I can get into the merge. Now, while this is against an F-15E, and I am obviously favoured to win, especially in a low-fuel J10, see how quickly he pulled inside my circle? That tells me that he cut a lot of speed into that merge, so I make sure that I go up, because I know he can't follow that, because he's bled all his energy already. He does try and follow me, and you see how he's basically just stalled out, floating in the air for me to collect the kill. Move on to the last game now, and it's going to start off with another Datalink kill. So I can see there's an F-14 in my RWR, so I'm using manual TWS at the moment, just swinging it around, trying to find them. And I'm going to target the guy that's flying this way, and I'm going to take the shot even though I know he's basically in a notch already, because you see that it immediately switches to Datalink again. Because I'm looking down, my missile doesn't want to switch off the Doppler filter, so it asks me for guidance updates. He turns away from it, out of the notch, the missile tracks him again, and I get the kill. Now, as you're watching the seeker state in the sensor views again, think about how you would defend if you're in the F-15 in this scenario. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to be at this altitude anyway, but you know, if you are in this situation, you think you're getting data links, don't recommit or turn cold unless you can outrun the missile, because it will just track you again, find you and kill you. Your best bet is to alter your altitude. Ideally climb, because if you can get the missile to start looking up, it might switch off the Doppler filter and then it will go for your chaff. But just commit to the notch and change your altitude. At the very least, you're going to make it hard for the inertial guidance and data link to get a good fix on you and get close enough for the kill. Back to the rest of that match now, and I'm recommitting onto this Gripen. I'm looking for a HMD lock now because I know it's close range. I'm going to get the launch. I'm already looking for the notch because I could see that he was coming up to me. See, even a 2-kilometer launch, I'm comfortably in the notch in time because I was prepared for the defense after I fire. I see too many people take the shot short range and then just continue head on, just full committing to killing the guy. And you probably end up trading in those scenarios even if you do get the kill. So make sure you prepare your defense. You know, you're thinking about your defense as you're taking the shot. So as I'm pushing into the middle of the map here, I'm keeping my trigger discipline. I'm not firing missiles that have got a long way to go, that are well outside the MAR, because I don't want to waste my missiles. You know, I want high chances of kill at all times. And I'm just keeping them all on my left wingtip. I'm not overcommitting to pushing in while I think people are looking at me and shooting me. So I commit now because my RWR is looking pretty clear. I'm pretty confident that no one's looking at me right now, so I can close that distance and get in quite safely. Now I'm holding my fire until I have a pretty clean shot here. They're very close to my teammates, so obviously I don't want to collect a team kill, so only fire on that F-14 when I'm confident that the missile probably isn't going to switch to a teammate. With the Gripen, my radar lock's falling off, so I switch to the PL-5. He's paying attention to the Su-34 in his tail, and it's very close range, so as long as I get a clean launch, it's going to be almost impossible to flare that, which he doesn't. Just moving in now towards this F-14 I can see, and obviously I can see on RWR as well. Then I see the other F-14 pop up. Just as I fire though, someone else takes him out. Switch to the Gripen, who's turning away from me. Looks like he's going to multipath height, and I don't have a good top-down aspect, so I'm going to go for the PL-5. I'm just going to follow behind him. I can see him catching, so as soon as he recommits and I don't see any flares in the air, I'm going to take the shot. And he's obviously paying attention to my teammate, so he doesn't flare that. Quickly switch to the F-16 who pops up, get the launch off. Multipath would have been an option for me here, but I go for the notch, successfully defend and collect the kill. Cut ahead to the last kill now. He's going to use the airfield as cover. I can see by his speed that he's not going to try and land, so I'm going to use these mountains on the left just to cover me from the surface-to-air missiles. And I'm just going to fly parallel to him with these mountains as cover. And I'm constantly checking back, so I'm expecting him to try and recommit to fight me, because I've backed him into a corner and he's going to need to take me out if he wants to land and rearm. So as I'm going around here, I see the closure rate's getting smaller, so I know he's coming to recommit. Make sure you use ACM rather than HMD in these situations. It will get you a much quicker lock. Get the missile off, just dodge his gun, and that's the last kill. Now, dev server's just opened at the time of recording this, so I'm probably going to try and do some dev server content. I also want to cover the F4F ICE, because I imagine a lot of you are going to be playing that ready for the Eurofighter, so that's kind of in my immediate plans. That's all for today. Hope to see you again.